Happy Monday to you. Happy week 3. How did we get here? Week 3. It seemed like an eternity that we were planning for the launch of All In with Amy Lawrence on YouTube. And really, because I had agreed with my bosses and started planning in July, the March, actually going back to June, but most of July. So the March felt like it was moving so slowly. I think partly my anxiety to get started, but also my anxiety about being on camera every day. And now here we are in week number 3, and I'm getting more comfortable with the routine. So I can't tell you that the next time the show is on the road or outside this little studio space that I will be as comfortable. That's probably a work in progress. Or when we've got crazy dogs just outside the door barking. Oh my gosh, it's a bit of a dog playhouse here on this Monday because my mom is also here. I don't think I can convince her to be on camera, but I will ask. I'll ask if mom will come and hang out, but I don't know that I can convince her. She really doesn't enjoy it. And so she's here because there's some work going on at her house on this Monday, which means that they do not have AC. So I agree. If that was me, if it was a reversal and we had work going on at our house, I would probably be at mom's too in the AC, leaving the hubs here to deal with the workers. And so she came up last night with her dog, who is a Aussie rescue. He's a full bred red merle. He's beautiful. His name is Tucker, but he is a lot. He's got a ton of energy. It's funny because I think Flower, our dog, the one that you saw on Flower Friday, and she was a big star over the weekend. Our shorts and our videos with Flower and also Daisy making their cameos got a lot of traffic on YouTube and social media. But I think Flower has a ton of energy and is kind of crazy and is really fast twitch, so to speak, and very athletic. And then I see her with Tucker, who can run circles around her. He's a boy dog and he can stop on a dime. He's a typical Aussie who is great at those skills you need for herding. And so, yeah, while the WNBA tries to figure out how to define what a woman is and who should be able to participate, I can tell you, our a boy family dog versus girl family dog, there is no contest in their athleticism and the speed and their ability to move around, the agility. Oh my gosh. So yes, Tucker and Flower, they are like siblings, in this case, cousins, I guess, who will butt heads, and Flower gets a little territorial, and then Tucker wants to run around and be rambunctious, and they will go after the same ball. Now, the ball becomes an issue because Daisy loves the ball, any ball. It doesn't matter what ball it is. If she can chase it and bring it back, that is her happy place. And so when Daisy and Tucker are chasing the same ball, I think Tucker outweighs Daisy by, oh my gosh, 80 pounds. Maybe it's not that much, but it feels that way because he's got a lot of hair too, like a typical Aussie. Daisy's a mini Aussie, and she's fierce when she gets pushed too far, though she's more of a slow simmer and a slow boil. But when she does get pushed too far, then she goes back after Tucker, like, give me that ball and stop booping me, stop getting in my personal space. And when she gets frustrated or upset, then Flower goes after Tucker too. So see what I mean? It can be all kinds of fun. And I just heard one of them bark outside the door. So I thought maybe I'd bring the dogs in, not Tucker, but our 2 dogs in to start the work week. And I don't know, it just seems like I'm playing with fire. So not today. Week 3 of All In with Amy Lawrence. I'm so excited to explore new territory. And honestly, the news cycle is beginning to spin more and more furiously the closer we get to the NFL season and also the closer we get to the end of summer. So it's not just football. pro football, it's also college football. And the NBA celebrated induction into the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame over the weekend as well. And there were some pretty neat moments that were emotional, a couple of ties for me personally. So I was happy to see these guys, and I should say guys and women, go into the hall. More from the WNBA and the fever pitch. Haha. It's fever around the Indiana women's basketball team, and really excited to welcome an uber talented, extremely versatile friend and sister in the industry. And she will join us from the Bay Area. If you know the name Jessica Kleinschmidt, well, she's been covering baseball, sports, and entertainment for a long time. And I've asked her many questions about being on camera because she's so comfortable at it. I learned a lot from her, but also about social media because she's a bit of a social media maverick and has been navigating it for a lot longer than I have. So starting up our Instagram and TikTok accounts, I reached out to her for some advice, and she's been so helpful, and I'm really excited to welcome her to the show. So we wanted to say thank you, or I wanted to say thank you for all the traffic over the weekend on the various videos and clips that we had. I feel like people are starting to get it, like to understand, hey, we're back and this is the routine and this is how you can find us live, but also there's a lot of different ways that you can connect with us after the fact on demand. And that's the value of the digital experience, is that you don't have to be with us live. But I was thinking about it over the weekend, and this is one of the shifts that I have to make out of sports radio. Not that everyone that followed After Hours or my radio work elsewhere, SiriusXM, not that all of you have to listen live, but we had such a sizable audience live that I could throw out show questions and could have a bit of a back and forth and exchange with listeners and sports fans during the course of the show. But because the vast majority of you that consume All In, and that's so cool, it's totally fine. People have jobs, and they've got other stuff going on. And that's one of the challenges of working during the daytime, where it's a very crowded space. And it's not just that you all have jobs and you have other experiences and other tasks and to-do lists and commitments that take your time away. But also, in addition to that, there's a lot of other shows and podcasts and broadcasts that take place about the same time, middays. And so it's a crowded space, but also you've got commitments on a Monday. So it's just different. Whereas doing an overnight show, a lot of the people who were tuned in were able to engage or could answer a show question. That's not something I think that we can do as much on this show. And also learning too, that as we get into week number 3, we're going to throw out the post and the space where you can send your questions for Ask Amy Anything. You can actually ask Amy the day before, but we'll always answer those questions on our hump day or hump show. So yes, learning as we go. And also grateful for weekends. Again, it's a different type of a thing when you work 5 days a week, and it's a routine to get out of that routine on a Saturday. So really enjoyed not leaving the house on Saturday. I did go outside with the dogs, played with them, did some yard work, but actually August is forcing me to spend more time inside in Texas. I do not think that August is a month where I'll get a ton of time outside based on what the first couple of weeks have been like. And I guess actually we're past the point at which it's mid-August, which is crazy, as it's August 17th and we are hurtling our way toward the start of football. So I hope you had a good weekend, enjoyed some time. Let's see, doing puzzle with mom, playing some cards with the family, going back to Friday night. Also did some fun cooking. Hubs whipped up a new recipe that he'd been sitting on. We were looking for something unique to make on Saturday. So yeah, the weekends have now become more of a Sabbath and a cherished space again. Oh, actually, speaking of Sabbath, it was kind of fun yesterday. One of the things I've missed about New Jersey is for 10 plus years, I taught elementary school kiddos on Sunday mornings at the church I attended for years. And when we picked up and moved, I knew it would take some time for us to figure out what church we wanted to go to and also how I could get involved and if I could jump back in teaching kids. So I had done the whole sign up and background check process with the church we're attending and started volunteering yesterday for the first time, which was great because we've been here now for 9 months ish, even a little more than 9 months. And just yeah, still finding footing and feeling like I have culture shock, especially Texas in August. So we'd love for you to find us on social media, whether you want to see Flower and Daisy stealing the show on Friday or you want to go back and watch some of the earlier editions of Ask Amy Anything. It's easy to find us on Insta and TikTok. You can just search for All In with Amy Lawrence. Of course, that's how you find us here on YouTube. And then I've got the older social media accounts that will remain. So After Hours with Amy Lawrence on Facebook, where it's an audience or a group of people that I connect with that have been following for a long time. X is kind of transient. There's a lot of colleague and industry connections that I talk to there, but also people who are finding for the first time. But it's very different when I first started on X, which was 2011. And I only know that because the account sends me a happy anniversary post. The site sends me a happy anniversary post every October. It was a lot more of the sports traffic than what there is now. It definitely has seen a hit over the last few years. People have gotten off of it. It's not nearly as, I don't want to say it's active because most of the sports industry insiders still use X to break news, but it's very clear that a lot of fans and listeners have either gotten off of it or have taken their business elsewhere. So yeah, it's a constantly changing landscape in social media, but we're glad to connect with you however it is that you consume it. So happy Monday. Buckle up. We've got a full week and it's starting to get crazy busy around the football space. So a couple of things I want to talk about today. I don't know if you saw this. This is, to me, just one of those experiments where I can't help but think sarcastically to myself, what could possibly go wrong? Well, I saw this post on X, even as I'm talking about it, from the Sports Business Journal. The Heisman Trophy, which is a separate entity. Obviously, they operate in the college football space and they're dependent upon college football. And there is an independent group of voters, but they do have a lot of interaction with college football and with the college football industry. But the Heisman Trophy is its own entity. So the Heisman Trophy is adding a fan vote for the first time. And according to Sports Business Journal, this is how it will work. Heisman Hopefuls is this voting campaign for fans, and it will open up for your participation starting in early September, and fans can vote. Again, what could possibly go wrong? One time every day through the entire season. It reminds me a little bit of what happens with the Major League Baseball fan voting, and people have been complaining about that for years. This could really skew how things work. It just depends upon the weight they place on the fan vote. So here's what the Sports Business Journal reports, that the top 3 fan picks. Okay, so let's say someone who is a huge Notre Dame fan. You know who you are, you Fighting Irish faithful. A Fighting Irish fan or a group of fans goes in and votes every day for the same person. So you can obviously skew the voting if you are very consistent and you're faithful about it. You can go in every single day starting in early September and vote for the same person, or a group of people can vote for the same person. It might be more about name recognition than it is about success. It might be more skewed toward quarterbacks or toward offensive players, which is generally the case with the Heisman anyway. Top 3 fan picks combine into one ballot. Okay, so you've got the top 3 fan picks that will essentially morph based on the math and the computer science that's involved, the programs, blah, blah, blah. And that ballot with the top 3 fan picks will be submitted alongside the traditional voters. And so this is an experiment that we will see how it kind of weighs out and plays out with the voting. But I think the key is to keep that fan vote not limited so much because you're going to have millions and millions of people, but to not allow it be to be weighted more than these other traditional ballots that are also cast, and there's 1,000 of them. And so that's something new that college football fans can get excited about. And of course it's sponsored EA Sports and other different partners with college football. It's a way to drive traffic online. It's a way to keep people engaged daily. Probably if you do it, you're going to end up either sharing your information so that you're starting to get bombarded until you unsubscribe, but by various partners of college football or some of these other corporate entities that are sponsoring it. So it really is about you getting sucked down to another digital rabbit hole. I understand why, and I certainly get it. And maybe fans will love it. I know in today's world, our phones are spying on us, our computers are spying on us. For heaven's sakes, I'm looking into a camera a couple hours a day. I do try to limit the number of various ways that I engage with that type of thing, like submitting my information, and I try to unsubscribe from a lot of that stuff. There's no way, especially doing the job that I do, that I could ever completely remove myself from a space where I'm getting bombarded by all this stuff. And I do know, of course, that anytime you use Google or any of the major servers, you're essentially committing to sharing your information everywhere all the time. But yeah, it's just another way to kind of suck you in and keep you attached to your phone or your device. Now, that's something that I really like to get away from as much as possible, especially now with the new routine. I try to do a few hours a day and then get up and go play with the dogs, or get up and go do something completely different. Read a book or read a magazine or do dishes, for heaven's sakes, just so I'm not staring at a screen. But yeah, Heisman Trophy fan balloting maybe takes a bit of a hit in its credibility then. Maybe not as prestigious when you've got fans who are voting, and we'll see the impact in this first year, but that's just happening now. Something else that's just happening, and this is actually related to where we've moved in Texas. So we are, I mean, we're north and west of Houston, but we're also close to College Station, which is where Texas A&M is located. Obviously a huge campaign last year in college football, and a lot of people looking forward to an encore in 2026. Well, I tweeted about this going back to, I think it was May. So or maybe right after Memorial Day, but pre-summer, it was I think it was a dentist's office or a doctor's office. But it happens more than, I mean, it's happened more than I can count now being in the College Station space. We do some shopping up there just because of where we live in the country. It's easily accessible, or easier to access, I should say. And I was sharing this post, resharing it this morning at A-Law Radio if you want to find it. But one of my favorite things about living near College Station is finding Von Miller jerseys all over. And that's because he played at Texas A&M. Now, you'll sometimes see, again, dentist's office or a small business, you'll see a signed A&M Von Miller jersey, but the one that I love, that I shared, that speaks to me personally, is a Broncos jersey signed by Von Miller. And so I shared that on X if you want to see it, again, at A-Law Radio, because I do run into these all over the place. Sports medicine, hospitals, again, dentists, or just places where he might have frequented when he was going to Texas A&M and he was living in College Station or near College Station. And that's big news today because he has signed a deal to return to Texas, not Texas A&M, a little north of there. He's from the Dallas area. It's a suburb that's south of Dallas, which I just found out today, DeSoto. And I knew where he was from. I didn't know where that city was or if it was a suburb. But he's returning to Dallas to potentially finish out his NFL career because he's agreed to a one-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys. How about that? So this news broke late last night. He put it out there, a photo of him in a Dallas Cowboys jersey. What? That's going to take some getting used to. But you know that Jerry Jones does love to make a splash with free agent signings and bigger names, and that's certainly Von Miller. And I know he's gone through some injuries and has also played for multiple teams going back to when he left the Broncos. If you remember, The Broncos were going through a transition. Von Miller was traded to the Rams. He ended up winning a Super Bowl and making a bit of an impact with the Rams when he was there. He was very motivated. So he ends up with the Rams. Then he spends 3 seasons with the Buffalo Bills, in which, again, he made an impact both in the locker room and on the field, but he got injured toward the end of his tenure with the Bills. Last season with the Washington Commanders, and if I remember correctly, he had 9 sacks last year. He had 9 sacks for the Commanders, and that was his highest total since 2021 when he was with both Broncos and Rams and ended up winning another Super Bowl ring. So he was very effective last year. Now, some of you may remember in the offseason that Vaughn was trying to campaign the Broncos and cajole the Broncos based on nostalgia to bring him back so that he could finish out his career with Denver. And I remember there were some videos out there. He did some interviews, and there were a lot of different social media posts about him potentially returning to Denver. He did try to get them to bring him back. Instead, it is the Dallas Cowboys. And so here is this guy who's been to the Pro Bowl 8 times, first or second team All-Pro 7 times. He was twice second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He won the Rookie Defensive Player of the Year after he was a first-round draft pick out of A&M going back to 2011. So he's in the second decade, well into the second decade, right, of his NFL career, and he's still productive. And even though he may not have the same speed or explosiveness that he did with the Broncos when he was a Super Bowl MVP. So that goes back to the end of DeMarcus Ware and Peyton Manning's career with the Broncos, and he was the Super Bowl MVP. You may remember the strip sack and fumble that he forced by Cam Newton toward the end of that Super Bowl between Broncos and Panthers. And so he was the Super Bowl MVP, but DeMarcus Ware was a guy that mentored him. So Ware was on his way out at the time, and Von Miller was relatively early in his career. So then it stands to reason that DeMarcus Ware, who was a longtime Dallas Cowboy, is thrilled over Von Miller returning to Dallas. And there was some talk out there that DeMarcus was part of recruiting him to Dallas and also maybe convincing Cowboys brass to make this deal. So he is with the Cowboys. And I wonder, again, not the same speed and explosiveness because he's older, because he's got a lot of miles on his body. He's also suffered through some injuries. So he's late 30s. Not that that means you can't play. I mean, Matthew Stafford just won an MVP in his late 30s. But Von Miller maybe, just maybe, can fill some of that void left by a Micah Parsons. Don't freak out. I don't mean that he's in the same stage of his career or at this point is as talented and explosive and as effective as a Micah Parsons. However, you bring in a guy like this who's seen so much and who knows some of the ways to be crafty and savvy and creative on the line. He can have such an impact on other pass rushers. He will attract attention, of course, when he's on the field because of his versatility and the fact that he can move around and he can wreak some havoc still. Maybe he's not an every down player, but he can get out there once or twice a series and he can make a difference. And they certainly need that. So they had just signed or I guess given a contract extension to Quinnen Williams along that defensive line. And what can he do? What can Von Miller do in terms of educating and sharing his wisdom with the Cowboys pass rush and D-line, but also how you might be able to insert him as a wrinkle. Think of it like a nickel back when it comes to the defensive secondary and where you're facing a third down situation and your opponent's got multiple receivers, extra receivers lined up on the line. You bring in an extra DB. Well, Von Miller has got experience in every phase of disrupting the opponent's passing attack, whether it comes to rushing the QB, stunting on the line, whether it's about dropping in coverage or disguising coverage, calling out plays. This guy has done it all at the highest level. So instant credibility, but also instant acceptance in that Cowboys locker room where his resume and his feats are well known. And I'm just a huge fan of what he brings to the table. Because of where he's been and what he's done, but also just because of his unique abilities and that unique skill set. And I love his personality too. I run into him a couple times at different radio rows on Super Bowl, and he's always got a ready smile. And with his glasses, sometimes I think, oh, he's like a Clark Kent that can turn into a Superman. So good for Von Miller. That news broke on Sunday night. Love to have you join in the conversation. We appreciate your comments. Oh, stop touching the camera. That's something I'm going to work on I touched the computer and and the camera makes you seasick then. But yeah, I touched the screen. We love to have your comments during the show because it's fun to engage with you while we're here doing the show itself. So go ahead and send your comments to the YouTube stream. Also, you can find us on our various social media sites. Thank you for supporting us, continuing to believe that this is going to be a show that you make part of your daily or nightly routine whenever you choose to consume. All In with Amy Lawrence starting week number 3. We've got some quarterback competitions. Actually, I think we just have one quarterback competition that's legitimately ongoing in the preseason, but also some other QB news as we get set for week 2 of the preseason because it'll start on Thursday. All In with Amy Lawrence on this Monday here on YouTube and the Rogue Media Network.
Summer isn't over yet. Make every last splash count at Waco Surf. Catch perfect waves, float the lazy river, or relax on the beach while the kids make unforgettable memories. Stay in their hotel or private cabins, or hook up with your RV. Located just 90 miles from Dallas and Austin, set on 450 acres in the heart of Texas, Waco Surf is unlike any other water park around. Before school starts, give your family one more epic adventure. WacoSurf.com. Book your stay today and catch a wave.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Providence. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to CentralTexasCattleBaronsBall.org.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Farmhound's approach is a little different than a traditional treat company. We get to work with local farmers who are putting everything they can into regenerative farming. From the soil to the animals to the ecosystem. They care about how animals are raised and how we treat the earth. It's not just product, but it's part of that story. It's connected to just a whole lot more.
Happy Monday! Glad to have you with us, whether it's live while we're here on our YouTube broadcast or whether it's after the fact. it's neat to actually see. Now, I try not to obsess over numbers because that would take me away from what I do best, but it's neat to see the traffic on the YouTube channel. And funny story, going back to the beginning, gosh, just the early stages of planning, my mom said to me, "Do I need to subscribe to watch or listen?" And actually, I got that question from a bunch of people on social media. And no, you don't. And you know what's funny? I think producer Zach and I have talked about this a bunch, so he can probably attest to how it can be really frustrating where watching sports these days requires that you subscribe or you sign up for yet another streaming service, another streaming service. I will always remember this going back to the first weekend of the NFL playoffs. So last season, but obviously in 2026, you needed 6 different streaming services to watch the first 7 games. Nuts so. They do it on purpose, of course. The NFL and its broadcast partners, they all want a piece of the action in the the postseason, excuse me, which means that the games are going to be disseminated per the contracts that these streaming services sign. They're paying a ton of money to the NFL for the rights to stream, which means they do want at least one postseason game, if not more. But it can be a pain in the rear when you're constantly signing up for this service and this service. And the way my husband and I do it, because it turns out money does not grow on trees in Texas, nor does it, get pooped out of a cattle's rear end. We got plenty of cow around here. Not our cows, but lots of other cows and cattle. It's money's a finite resource. And when you're constantly having to fork over extra for every streaming service, we do the song and dance where in the summertime we dial back or we look for deals, or you know what? You can use the digital space and the way that our phones and our computers spy on us. You can use that against them. If you Google something or you search for a deal, or maybe you actually start to fill out a form online to sign up for a streaming service and then you change your mind, often they will come back to you with a deal. Hey, if you join now, we can give you da 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 da. Or if you tried this before, you try to cancel a service, maybe you still want it, but you're going to get rid of it for a couple of months, or maybe you've decided it's too expensive. You try to cancel, and almost every single streaming service out there will offer you a deal. Hey, wait, come back for 3 months and we'll give it to you for a third of the cost. So there are lots of ways to finagle the process, but it's still expensive. And so when mom said to me, "Do I need to subscribe to watch the show on YouTube?" No, you don't. And that's what I love about YouTube. Now, YouTube TV is a subscription service, but YouTube, just plain old OG YouTube, you don't need to pay or subscribe for anything if you want to watch the show. I think there's some premium services where you can get rid of ads, that kind of thing. But we appreciate our corporate partners like Waco Surf. Goodness, lots of kids that I talked to this weekend have already started school in Texas, in the South, the Midwest. However, there's still a Labor Day weekend coming up and still a lot of heat. So Waco Surf is a great way to get away, even if it's for a day or for a long weekend. And we appreciate their partnership, especially with Rogue Media Network that's based in Waco, to get the local partnerships. They're so important to build community ties. And so you don't have to subscribe to YouTube, but what it does if you subscribe is it then sends you the emails or lets you know notifications that you've got new content. And so we're trying to work up our subscriber base as well, because that's good for us here on the show. So if you haven't subscribed and you want to, it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't mean anything, only that you're part of the All In family. Eek. Happy Monday to you. Monday is the day where, well, the phrase Monday morning quarterback, it was coined because of the fact that fans, analysts, talking heads like me, and I am just kind of a head, right? Mom says to me sometimes, put more of your body in the shot, but then it doesn't matter. It's just all about figuring out the right angle for the camera and not slouching. So Monday morning quarterback is all about breaking down what we saw from the football over the weekend. And if I know anything about the NFL, it's that we overreact to the hilt. And it happens even in the preseason. I generally tend to tease fans after week 1 no, your team is not headed for the Super Bowl after week 1, and no, your team is not going undefeated or the opposite, not going winless all season. It's really hard to do that. There's a reason why you can count on one hand the number of teams that have gone either, well, actually, not even either, combine them, the number of teams that have gone unbeaten or winless over the entire history of pro football. Well, it's because it's very uncommon. Even if your team is god awful, it's very uncommon. But your team is not winning anything after week number 1. But now it happens that because we see rookies make their NFL preseason debuts, or because we get different guys on the field, and keep in mind, both offensively and defensively, they're not facing the toughest competition. So often, especially in week 1 of preseason, you're getting, and there's nothing wrong with earning a paycheck as a reserve player in the NFL. So I'm not denigrating them, but you're sometimes facing the second string or the third string, or coaches have players out there that are training camp invites so that they can see what they might have to enhance their depth. And so you're not always seeing the best players on each team square off, but also you're getting very, very vanilla, plain, undressed up and uncomplicated offensive sets, because these teams don't want to give up too much of what they're working on, their schemes, their playbook, that kind of jazz. They are trying to test their guys and figure out how to fill out their rosters without giving up too much of what they've got coming for the season. So it's hard to measure what you see on the field in the preseason. But I do know, as much as I was excited, and I really do think Fernando Mendoza is forcing the issues with the Raiders, not just because of the preseason, but because of his entire resume. Now you've got a Ty Simpson that goes out there in week 1 of the NFL preseason. Remember, he was a surprise pick for the Rams. Matthew Stafford didn't know about it, but minutes before the pick was made, they picked him number 13 overall in the first round going back to April, and he is the quarterback of the future. According to Les Snead, Sean McVay, this is how they prepare for whenever Matthew Stafford does retire. Are they looking for Ty Simpson to play this year? Well, hell no. If Ty Simpson is out there on the field this year in games that matter, not say week 18 when they've already secured their playoff position, or they've got, nothing to gain by sending Matthew Stafford out there. If Ty Simpson plays this season, something's gone wrong with Matthew Stafford. Either he's not playing well, or worst case scenario, he's got an injury that takes him off the field. But a lot of people reacting to Ty Simpson and how he performed. I did watch a bunch of the video after the fact, and I do like that he looks fluid. He tends to go to his right a lot, whether it's roll out to the right, whether it's look to the right. I didn't see a ton of completions from Ty Simpson to the left or to the middle. And so that's something that D coordinators will harp on, that he's most comfortable, whether he gets a chance to, go through his sequence and his options at the line, or whether they say this is the play. He's most effective when he's rolling out and moving to the right, or when he's fading out to the right in the flat and can then look for his receivers there. So they're going to work with him. Of course, he's got a terrific offensive staff, not just the head coach, Sean McVay, who's an offensive savant of sorts. He's been that way now for years since he took over with the Los Angeles Rams. But think about who the quarterback is that he looks up at on the depth chart, and that is the reigning MVP in Matthew Stafford. So I try to temper enthusiasm, but definitely Ty Simpson has turned a lot of heads with his performance in the preseason game over the weekend for the Rams. Another piece of Rams news is this. This is not quarterbacks, but another piece of Rams news is that Aaron Donald has worked out again with the Rams, and Sean McVay essentially says the same thing. This is Aaron's decision. It's on Aaron's timeline. We don't have a set date. We don't have a set time. Whenever Aaron is ready, if he wants to come back and play for the Rams, this is his home. This is his franchise. We will welcome him, and we'll figure out a way to make the use of his terrific talents and exceptional experience. But there's no timetable. And I truly believe that. What are you going to say to Aaron Donald? Hey, man, if it's not by week 3, let's go. Time is money and chop chop. stop it. It's Aaron Donald. So let the man decide what he wants to do and when he's ready to get back into the daily grind of football. So a little bit of the Rams news dropped in, but yes, a lot of buzz around Ty Simpson. Okay, so one more here, and this is because we're talking about quarterbacks, and there's one at this point. Okay, so Monday, August 17th, there's one quarterback battle that's still taking place. I guess you could look at the Falcons, except that even as Tua Tagovailoa, we'll just go with Tua, of course. Although it is fun, it's a good thing if you're a broadcaster to just throw the name out there seamlessly at least once a football weekend. Tua Tagovailoa, Tua right now is QB1 for the Atlanta Falcons in their first year with Kevin Stefanski and his first year with the Falcons, in large part because there isn't any competition right now. Michael Penix is not ready to come back from the ACL, which means that it's Tua's job. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't be if there was a real competition, but because they're starting all fresh now. Anything that Penix has learned from the previous coaching staff and whatever schemes and systems he picked up, now he's starting fresh too, as is Tua. And so right now the job is Tua's because they can't have a battle. There may be a battle at some point down the road when Penix is healthy. Also, we talked about the Raiders. Fernando Mendoza is listed as QB2, and I think that's smart because Kirk Cousins comes in and he's ready to go. He can learn a system quickly. There are some similarities there with the systems he's run in the past because of a crossover with personnel and coaching staff in Vegas now. So they've made sure people don't think this is a quarterback competition, though Fernando Mendoza puts pressure on the Raiders to make that change quickly. The one true competition after Kyler Murray was named the starter for Minnesota, the one true competition is the Browns. Now, based on the amount of traffic that we saw on our Browns segments or Browns clips from last week, I shared them again over the weekend, both a short on Insta and TikTok, as well as more of a long form, just kind of talking about the Browns quarterback situation, both today and going back the last almost 30 years. It's a revolving door. It's a rite of passage in August that they have a quarterback competition. But this is Todd Monken's first time going through the Browns QB competition. And we saw Deshaun Watson start over the weekend and then also saw Shedeur Sanders get on the field. And so, of course, first thing on Sunday, he's getting asked about the latest with his QB depth chart.
I'm not ready to say it yet. I mean, the plan was always to get through the Bills game, switch up who was going to start, who was going to play in the second half, and then we'll go from there. Every day is important. Monday's going to be important, right? Being in the meeting rooms are going to be important. Listening to the players talk about what they saw, right? That's part of it too. What they saw, how they feel. We'll go back to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, have a great practice against Buffalo. Then we'll walk through on Friday, and then we'll go compete our rear ends off against the Bills and see where we're at. And then we'll reevaluate then. We'll certainly watch it tomorrow and have an idea of how we thought our guys played. I mean, that's a part of it. That is a part of it. We're always in the evaluation process, and we're going to do the same thing as a coaching staff. I mean, there's certainly things we're going to look back at and say, how do we coach that better? How do we scheme it better moving forward? Who do we want to be moving forward?
So I understand Todd Monken, he's sticking to his schedule, and there's no reason to jump the gun when it comes to the Browns. Neither Deshaun Watson nor Shedeur Sanders has set himself apart. And the real challenge here is not so much about the athletic ability, because Shedeur has a lot of that, but is he coachable? Remember, it was only his dad who was his coach up until the point at which he was drafted by the Browns last year. And last year was Kevin Stefanski. How does the locker room and the huddle respond to him? Mentally, is he prepared? Does he have the vision, the acuity, the ability to process quickly when he's on the line? In those aspects, Deshaun Watson has an edge, not because he's been so consistent or active over the last several years. I mean, it's been almost 2 years, not quite, but well over a year and a half since he last took a snap in a game that counted. So it's been a long time. But he does have the edge when it comes to the number of games he started and the amount of time he's accrued as a veteran in the NFL. And so even now, when he's working with a lot of young guys, he's got the edge and experience. I don't think either option right now is so appealing, but I think the Browns would at least have more investment in their future if they started Shedeur Sanders. It's a young team. The expectations are relatively low, even in the wide open AFC North. Myles Garrett is gone. I know you've got Jared Verse. You've got some good young talent there, but how about allow these guys to grow up together along with Todd Monken, who's a first-year head coach, as opposed to going back to an also ran in Deshaun Watson. But it's a challenge, though. Is this about winning every week? Is it about coming out of the gate strong, maybe exceeding expectations? Or is it about trying to build your foundation for the future? And with a new head coach and a young roster, there's always a delicate song and dance that is associated with that process. So we'll see which way they decide to go. Right now, it seems like Deshaun Watson has the edge in the competition, but they both got a good number of series in on Saturday, and he says they'll wait until after that Bills preseason game, which comes up in week 2. All right, we are flying through our first hour, which I love. That's terrific. It's that time of the year where I tell people I never get to everything. But before we got into all of the Saturday action in the NFL preseason, there was what they call, for good reason, a Friday news dump. The suspensions that the NFL is working on getting handed out and getting all of their legal ducks in a row as they get toward the start of the regular season. And two of them actually, opposite ends of the spectrum. They couldn't be more different in terms of why the suspensions were handed out. And I wanted to just highlight 2 of them. One, though, in particular, I've been waiting to hear about for months now. So that's straight ahead. Love for you to connect with us on social media. I've actually done some tweaking of one of the Twix accounts that I manage on social media. I think I'm going to use it just for clips from the new show. As we go through, there's lots of different ways that you can find us, and we'll continue to let you know. But pretty helpful just to search for All In with Amy Lawrence here on YouTube and the Rogue Media Network.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
Summer isn't over yet. Make every last splash count at Waco Surf. Catch perfect waves, float the lazy river, or relax on the beach while the kids make unforgettable memories. Stay in their hotel or private cabins, or hook up with your RV. Located just 90 miles from Dallas and Austin, set on 450 acres in the heart of Texas, Waco Surf is unlike any other water park around. Before school starts, give your family one more epic adventure. WacoSurf.com. Book your stay today and catch a wave.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Provident. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
For 75 years, Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. No gimmicks, just durable, well-designed bottles built to last. Join us in our mission to amplify life, not complicate it. Because at Nalgene, what goes into our bottles matters as much as the adventures they fuel. Explore more at nalgene.com. That's NALGENE.com.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
It's not quite football 24/7. We're not yet to that point, but it is more and more football as we get through August and on into the Labor Day weekend. And of course, college football week 0, I think, is the week before, so the end of August. But I'll have to check that out. I know they play en fuego over Labor Day weekend. It's kind of their weekend where they get out in front of the NFL. Even college football doesn't want to tangle as much with the NFL. So they plan some of their biggest events and marquee matchups, as well as, of course, their national championship. They steer clear of the NFL, and the league has an agreement with college football as well. They want to promote college football too, though not too much, because the NFL is pretty jealous if there's another sport or event that's attracting too much attention away from the NFL. Glad to have you with us. Lots of comments coming in on the YouTube live stream, because it's not going to be 24/7 football, at least not on this show today, at least not today. We will also highlight a couple of moments that I appreciated and enjoyed from the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremonies over the weekend. And then, too, I'm really excited to welcome Jessica Kleinschmidt, who is one of my favorite people in the industry. And I'm not just saying that. I've got a lot of people that I really care about after so many years in the sports broadcasting business. But she and I have become not just friends and say a support system, allies in this business, but also sisters. And it's been awesome to see her grow. And even as she's kind of in between jobs, I'm so proud of her, because I went through that over the last year and a half, continuing to grind and figure out ways to leave her footprint and expand her resume. So she's awesome. And I learn a lot from her about the digital space, to be sure. You'll understand when she joins us coming up about 40 minutes from now. Here on All In with Amy Lawrence, we like to look at different storylines, topics that are maybe off the beaten path, or topics that other people might not be as comfortable wading into. And I will say this too, as a female, having a different perspective than a lot of my male counterparts. And that's good. There was a lot of years in this business where I had program directors or managers who wanted to be more like the guys, more like the dudes. And I got nervous being different. It's hard sometimes to stand on your own 2 feet, especially when you're younger and you're finding your place. But quite a while ago, I'd say the last half of my career, so it's been 30 years this summer, the last 15 years or so, I've been much more comfortable using the fact that I'm a female and I am different to give me a different perspective and understand that that's great. One of my favorite sayings, I have a poster going back to when I was a kid. My mom gave it to me and it hung on my wall for years. And actually it's dog-eared now. I think it's been laminated. I still need to find a place to hang it up. But being different is often a wonderful thing. And it's a forest full of gorgeous green, emerald green trees. They're full and they're thick. And in the middle of all of it is a white flowering tree. It doesn't fit in. It's got the other trees towering over it, and yet it's so beautiful. And so I do think that being different, being unique is one way to stand out in this business. But even more than just the business cycle, I'm glad I'm not like everybody else. And there are times where I feel like having a female's perspective can be so critical. One of those times and those stretches in my career was going back to when everything blew up around Ray Rice and the NFL's domestic violence policies. or I should say the lack of any type of a policy with teeth. If you guys were following the NFL then, you may remember his suspension was dropped, I think in July or so. This goes back to the video in the elevator where at the time it was his fiance. He punched her out. He beat her pretty badly. And the NFL responded with this 1 game suspension, something so measly and stupid. And the backlash changed the NFL forever. And I remember too, I mean, I had talked about the video from this, I think it was a Vegas casino or hotel, had been out there for months. It's not like it was new with Ray Rice. But I guess the video wasn't out there, but the police report was out there. We knew the details, but when the video dropped, which it was right after week 1 of that NFL season, everything went haywire. And then all of a sudden that measly little suspension looked so ridiculous. The NFL was forced and backed into a corner. Unfortunately, it took this for the NFL to get serious about instituting a domestic violence policy with any type of actual teeth, with any type of a statement that would be made to not just the players themselves, but to the community and the corporate partners around the NFL, the fans of the NFL who are outraged that domestic violence and domestic abuse and sexual assault wasn't being taken more seriously. So now, and there were some bumpy roads instituting and implementing the policy after the NFL was forced to change. At first, they went so far, the other direction on the spectrum, indicating that, hey, we're gonna pretend like we're coming down really hard. We're gonna bounce Ray Rice from, well, actually the Ravens. They cut him, right? He never played again in the league. But this whole commissioner's exempt policy and all this stuff that, yeah, it was a lot of gnashing of teeth and just but like posing, almost this kind of a pompous act by the NFL where, hey, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna bring down the wrath of God on anyone who is accused of domestic violence. And they had to find a place in the middle because they were going to have to deal with the Players Association, of course, lawyers. What do you do when it's the commissioner and he's judge and jury and executioner, if you will? They kind of mitigated that with other people in the office that were more experienced in that domestic violence space. So a lot of changes and tweaks to the policy, but essentially there is a baseline suspension. And it's supposed to be 6 games, but the range is like 6 to 10 games ish, depending upon what the player has been charged with. And also, people forget this, even when an NFL player has not been charged with anything officially, even when there's only allegations, if an NFL player has not been committed or has not been he's not been what's the word? Oh my gosh, why is this word escaping me? He's not gone to court. He's not been convicted. Sorry, I was thinking committed. Goodness, lots of words in my brain. He's not been convicted of a crime. There still can be disciplinary action taken by the NFL. I mean, there's all kinds of different situations that you could go back, the history of the league. They're not beholden to the criminal process. And again, there don't even have to be official charges. The charges could be dropped. But if the NFL, in terms of its own investigating, comes across what they believe is behavior that violates their own policies, they can in fact take action. No, I'm not sure how many people are arguing with the suspension for Falcons pass rusher James Pearce Jr. He's been suspended 8 games. And this is one that I'd been waiting for. I'd been looking for because the accusations and even the charges against him, the allegations were fairly serious and got a lot of attention going back to, it goes back to much earlier in the year, but I think it was February. But part of the reason why it got so much attention is because the allegations of him trying to use his car as a weapon to run into a car that was driven by his ex-girlfriend is because she is a professional athlete, Rakia Jackson. And so at the time, it maybe made more headlines because of her status as a professional athlete. So he was accused of all kinds of things of, like I said, trying to use his own vehicle to repeatedly run into her vehicle to keep her from escaping. She was trying to get to a police station after this domestic dispute broke out. He then fled the scene after trying to crash his car into hers repeatedly and scaring her and obviously leading her to try to get to authorities. He then took off and he crashed his vehicle and also forced the authorities to pursue him on foot after he left his vehicle. He was also accused of resisting arrest. So there were felony charges that he could potentially face: aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and that's the car in this case, fleeing police, resisting arrest, stalking, all kinds of stuff in there. Well, as it turns out, going back to the spring, so this happened in February. Actually, I think it was Super Bowl weekend, if I remember. And he, in May, agreed to a pretrial intervention program. Okay, so to avoid serving jail time or going through the actual court process, as long as he stays out of legal trouble for a year, he passes drug tests, and he doesn't go anywhere near Jackson, the charges will be dropped. I don't agree with this, but I'm not part of the legal process, just as a female understanding. And I've not ever had an ex stalk me, but I have had another stalker. It's terrifying. And sometimes the threats, even if they only come online or in messages through social media sites, I mean, they're scary. And so thinking about it from her perspective, the fact that she felt imprisoned, trapped, couldn't get away, and that she was afraid of him, it feels like that shouldn't be dismissed simply because he stays out of trouble and doesn't go near her for a year. A year is not a long time. In fact, we're halfway to it being a year now. But the NFL has stepped in and maybe sent a message in that without pay, he will have to serve an 8-game suspension. So if he's worried about his livelihood, maybe the structure of being around the Falcons in the preseason, and of course during summer workouts, will remind him what he has to lose. But an 8-game suspension that he is not appealing, actually. And so his suspension begins at the end of August. He's not reinstated until November 2nd. And so the Falcons will not only lose another pass rusher. Remember, they also had lost one to was a torn ACL earlier in the preseason. So their pass rush is in dire straits. But that's football. This is real life. And the fact that his ex-girlfriend believed at times that if the authorities didn't step in, that this guy was going to kill her. I mean, she's got a protective order against him. This is serious business. So I do hope this is the last time we talk about this dude and a suspension and the fact that he's, pursuing her and chasing her. Like I said, it feels like a year is not a long time. I don't feel as though that's a stringent enough or strict enough. It's not a sentence, of course, but a punishment for him or, a program that he has to go through. But that's what the courts decided. That's what, the two attorneys in the court settled on. So I hope that she is safe and that she's away from him and that he's given that part up. But really, football is something he stands to lose. And there's also the part about the Falcons, right? If they feel like he's not reliable or they can't count on him or they can't trust him, then of course they could cut him too. But at this point, he's still with the team and is suspended until November 2nd. So that's one of the suspensions that was handed down on Friday by the NFL. There's another one that raised headlines for completely different reasons and maybe even tugged at some heartstrings. Sometimes, I'm not saying that all these guys lie, okay? Like these things can be checked and I don't know what an athlete would stand to gain by lying publicly when he could just say nothing. But we know that there are actually examples of this happening in the past where a guy's been suspended for taking a drug that he was using for a different purpose, but that he didn't do his investigating and due diligence to know whether or not it was on the NFL's banned list. And I think we have another one of those now. And just some, I think, painful circumstances, a really tough lesson to learn. But yeah, opposite end of the spectrum of James Pearce Jr. Love to have you join us at A-Law Radio, also on Insta and TikTok, All In with Amy Lawrence. 1 hour down, which is crazy. We still have the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, a couple of special moments from that ceremony over the weekend. And yeah, there's another story from college football that I would like to get to. I don't know if we will. I want to do it and be able to actually give it a bunch of attention. So we'll see if I shoehorn it in. It might be a topic for another day, but you think that pro athletes make a lot of money. Wow, some of the rosters in college football now are eye-popping. We might need to get a salary cap in college football as well. And I wonder if they'll get one before Major League Baseball will. Baseball storylines too. It's that kind of a Monday in August as we head through these last couple weekends of summer. Hope you had a great one. Glad to have you with us here on All In, YouTube, and the Rogue Media Network.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
Farmhound's approach is a little different than a traditional treat company. We get to work with local farmers who are putting everything they can into regenerative farming. From the soil to the animals to the ecosystem. They care about how animals are raised and how we treat the earth. It's not just product, but it's part of that story. It's connected to just a whole lot more.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Mondays always get crazy busy, and we haven't even gotten to football season yet. So yes, college football, NFL right around the corner. I know the kiddos that I met at my new church where I started volunteering over the weekend, they've gone back to school. My mom is getting ready to go back to school again. Love it that she's still teaching math. It keeps her brain very active. And even as she's in the next room, we've got a puzzle going because that's something else that she enjoys doing, reading and working working on jigsaw puzzles. She's got a voracious appetite for both, and great genes from my grandmother, and I hope they've been passed on to me. So I'm still working as I approach like milestone birthdays later in life, because I enjoy it right now, and I definitely miss the daily routine for the year and a half that I wasn't in it. But people keep asking about the overnights and going back to overnights and going back to full-time radio network, the one that bought out or replaced the one that I was working with. God can open any door, and there's a lot of plans that God lays out in front of me that I never see coming, like this one actually. But I don't foresee that in my future for a lot of reasons. My husband and I are in a different season of our lives too. And as I've mentioned more than once and written about in blog posts, we're waiting parents to adopt. I'd love to share that with people because it feels like I always crossing paths with people who have their own adoption stories. So we don't keep that a secret. We share that openly. And so there's a lot of areas of our lives that still transitioning, even to moving here to Texas and being closer to family and adjusting and acclimating to critters and heat and all that jazz. So yeah, this is the right show and the right routine that fits, and not only fits my schedule, but my husband's too, and allows us to have a professional and personal balance. And I would never expect anyone to apologize for that. Like, for instance, the White House press secretary just had her second baby and has decided that really in her life, there's not a whole lot of room for anything other than work and babies. And she needs to find some balance. And I applaud her, even as high profile as that job is, and as much as it must be an honor to be in that position. Obviously she's very good at it, but it's tough sometimes to find a work-life balance. And when you don't, everything else can go haywire. Your physical health, your mental health, just in general, your stress level can go way up. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity to have a show which allows me the balance that I didn't have toward the end of my tenure with my last job. And part of that is getting married, but it's not the whole thing. So yeah, it's a continually evolving balance where sometimes you've got other priorities that pop up. Family. I know got a lot of friends who are taking care of parents or moving parents at this stage in life. So yeah, there's just so much about life that is, that can be a priority that's more important than work. But I love what I do, and I can't fathom not talking about sports or connecting with people for many more years. So celebrating 30, let's see if I go another 30 years. Oh my gosh, you may not want to see me on screen at that point. I'll put like some avatar up, one of those fun avatars that people create digitally that kind of looks like them, but not really. I will tell you, I've got no filters. I think as much as I know people love filters, it actually turns out that the live stream with this very high-tech camera that I've got, it bogs down or slows down the stream when there are any kind of filters. And I think it would be fun to play with the filters, but even blurring the background or changing the background actually puts a drain on the stream. And so, yeah, right now, what you see is what you get. Glad to have you with us here on this Monday, as there's so much to talk about. I'm not even sure we'll get to everything, but we were talking about the NFL suspensions that were handed down over the weekend, and James Pearce is the major headline, but there was another one opposite end of the spectrum that I think really incites compassion from a lot of people, especially because this is not a unique situation for Titans cornerback Najee Johnson and his wife. It's definitely a challenge that many American families and couples go through, and that's fertility issues or either trouble getting pregnant or getting pregnant and then losing babies, having miscarriages. And so when he shared his story and his wife confirmed it, I was really feeling compassion for them. He's trying to make the roster with the Titans, but now is facing the suspension. 6 games is what the NFL handed down. And I'm torn because I understand both sides of the equation. So from Najee Johnson's perspective, he and his wife had just lost a baby. And after going through a miscarriage, I guess what they found out, according to them, is that he's the one that's got the fertility issues. So he was taking or had started taking fertility drugs. And he did not check to see if any of the substances that were in these fertility drugs were on the NFL's banned substances list. This has happened before. It's not the first time this has happened. We've, I think, at least two other examples of players taking fertility drugs for their personal lives and trying to build a family outside of football. And it turns out that one or more of the substances in those fertility drugs were also on the NFL's banned list. And so he's suspended for violating the NFL's performance enhancing drug policy. I have compassion for him and his wife because of what they're going through. And I understand why other football fans might say, hey, this is not fair. The dude's just trying to take care of his family. He's trying to make a roster, but football's not his life. He wants to be a daddy. They just lost a baby. And he did put out a statement that I thought was open and candid, but also probably painful, that they were trying to conceive. Again, he found out he was the one that was having the issue. So he started taking drugs and he wasn't aware that there was a substance in the medication that would pop positive on the NFL's banned list. And he said, lesson to all new players is that, or to play new players, but also existing NFL players, that you've got to be aware of every little thing that you put in your body. He did also say too, and I thought this was really hopeful, but also just hit me right in the heart, that they still do have a certain number of good eggs that are preserved. His wife does, and they're going to continue trying. I know there are billions of people that have gone through IVF and fertility issues. I've got friends myself that have struggled with that. And so my heart goes out to him. I can't imagine the pain that he and his wife have felt, and now to almost have it be a double whammy where he's got to serve the suspension. But on the other side of things, I certainly understand why the NFL can't make exceptions. Now they might, I'd have to go back and read again to see if they're appealing. They might end up reducing his suspension. Okay, if maybe the doctor weighs in or there's some indication that, yes, in fact, this was the only time he took the drug. The issue is, of course, that if the NFL starts making exceptions for one guy who uses a fertility drug, who's to say? Now, I'm not accusing Nazi Johnson of being dishonest and making this whole thing up. His wife has confirmed it, that that's what happened. And that also that the NFL went ahead and they denied his appeal. Excuse me. I should have seen that in the headline. Oh, see, sometimes we as Americans, we only read headlines. I actually didn't read the headline. I just went down to the story. So his wife is now saying that the NFL has denied his appeal. And I get it, because if you have one guy who is taking fertility medication for the right reason, and somehow, and I don't know all the science, I don't know the drugs, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but somehow it can be a performance enhancer. Who's to say that the next dude isn't going to say, well, he got away with it because he's going through fertility treatments. I'm going to try it. What's the difference? I can just claim that I'm going through fertility treatments. I can have a doctor, whether a doctor subscribes it or lies for me, blah, blah, blah. I don't know of a situation where this has happened, only that it could happen. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can circumvent the process if all it takes is a doctor's note and fertility treatments. So my heart goes out to Nazi, and I do hope the Titans are compassionate and understand. At the same time, your physical body and what you put into your physical body, that is critical when you are a professional athlete. And I know that he wants to share this lesson with other pro athletes and NFL players, but the thing is, there are other guys who already went through this. So maybe he should have learned the lesson and familiarized himself. And I think the bottom line is there are two things that I feel like pro athletes have got to know, just because it happens over and over again, and it blows me away that it's the mentality of, I'm not going to learn from someone else's mistakes. I've got to make my own. I mean, how many kids do that, right? Like parents will say, do as I say, not as I do, blah, blah, blah. Do it because I tell you. Do it because I'm older and smarter and wiser. But a lot of times young people, and I did this too, we want to make our own mistakes, and we got to know. Maybe it'll be different for us. Well, in the case of pro athletes, How many times do we have to hear about them getting arrested or getting jailed even for driving when they're under the influence of alcohol or drugs? If you're a pro athlete, you have the resources to be able to get a ride, even if you think that you're fine and should have no trouble. I feel like it's a hard line. It's black and white. If you're out, if you've had alcohol, let's hope not recreational drugs, but if you've been drinking, even if it's 2 beers, why not get a ride? That way you don't have to worry about it. So that's one issue that I think should be black and white for pro athletes, so that you never have to be concerned that you're going to run into an issue where you get arrested and something like that happens, even if you don't think it's an issue. Tony Romo should have known better. Everybody who gets behind a wheel as a pro athlete should know better because of what you put on the line. But this is another situation where I feel like, as much as I have compassion for him, I do have so much compassion for him and his wife, and I love that they're trying to have a family. But the thing is, as a pro athlete, there should never be an instance where you put anything in your body. I don't care if it's a 1-a-day vitamin. Never take anything or consume anything that you haven't run by a doctor or a nutritionist. Or how about this? The guy that is in charge of these types of things at your facility, the training staff, the nutritionist. There are people that you can consult in your own building. Now, maybe you wanted to keep that part of your life private. Fine, then go to your, go to a nutritionist that you hire or your own doctor to figure it out. But that has happened so many times where athletes have used a substance for a different purpose, but it turns out that there are nefarious ways that it can be consumed and they end up serving a suspension. So I hope it doesn't ruin his 2026, because the Titans would be well within their rights to say, hey man, we need that roster spot. We can't afford to keep you for for these 6 games and to have you on the roster when we need your help and you're not available. And furthermore, you were fighting for a job anyway. I hope this doesn't cost him his NFL season. It's a really tough lesson to learn. I feel terrible for him, to be sure. At A-Law Radio on X, also All In with Amy Lawrence on Insta or on TikTok. We love to connect with you. We're seeing more of that traffic as people develop patterns. I've even heard from some listeners who used to listen to my show every single night, and now they take the podcast from their favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, or even here on YouTube if they want to watch, and they consume it overnight, which is amazing. Whenever it works for you, that's the beauty of digital. It's All In with Amy Lawrence. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Monday here on YouTube and the Rogue Media Network.
Summer isn't over yet. Make every last splash count at Waco Surf. Catch perfect waves, float the lazy river, or relax on the beach while the kids make unforgettable memories. Stay in their hotel or private cabins, or hook up with your RV. Located just 90 miles from Dallas and Austin, set on 450 acres in the heart of Texas, Waco Surf is unlike any other water park around. Before school starts, give your family one more epic adventure. WacoSurf.com. Book your stay today and catch a wave.
It's the premier charity event of the year, the 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, presented by Ascension Provident. A fun evening filled with great food and drink, dancing, a spectacular auction, and more. This year's theme is Nashville Nights, Neon Lights, and Bullfights. Get your tickets now, donate, or be a sponsor. Help support the American Cancer Society to find a cure. The 2026 Central Texas Cattle Barons Ball, October 24th at MCC Highlander Ranch. For more information, go to centraltexascattlebaronsball.org.
Enjoy a quiet atmosphere with beautiful river views at the Brazos Landing, located in Waco along the Brazos River across from McLean Stadium. Enjoy homemade dishes like shrimp and grits, chicken piccata, braised short ribs, prime New York steaks, and more. Plus, enjoy a delicious dessert like creme brulee or key lime pie. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Brazos Landing in Waco, the only place where I-35 and the Brazos River meet.
Lake Waco Golf Club is a semi-private facility nestled along the north point of Lake Waco, one of the few facilities in Texas to have a full 18-hole regulation golf course as well as an executive 18-hole par 3 golf course. Plus, check out their bar and grill, which is open to the public. And if you're not a golfer, then enjoy time by the pool or even enjoy fishing around Lake Waco. Become a member today and call to book your tee time. Lake Waco Golf Club, where family and friends fun begins. Check them out at lakewacogc.com for more information.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Farmhound's approach is a little different than a traditional treat company. We get to work with local farmers who are putting everything they can into regenerative farming. From the soil to the animals to the ecosystem. They care about how animals are raised and how we treat the earth. It's not just product, but it's part of that story. It's connected to just a whole lot more.
It was a busy weekend in sports all around. Major League Baseball, the Brewers end up taking the series with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers won 1 of the 4. Dave Roberts is fit to be tied about their defense. Oh my gosh, the 2-time defending World Series champions are getting booed in their own stadium. I do love the music anytime. Jazz it up, producer Zach. So that the Dodgers and Brewers, they clash, and Brewers are clearly right now the best team in the National League, in addition to best record in Major League Baseball. Also, big news from college football. Not only is the Heisman about to allow fans to vote beginning in early September. We'll see how that goes. I'm sorry, fans. I don't know how much confidence I have in you to be impartial. I feel like fan, just by nature of the definition, fanatical, illogical, irrational, and definitely not objective. So I don't know how that's going to go, but they'll limit the impact. The fan vote, though, you could go every day starting September 9th and vote. And also, I place zero stock, not only in fan votes for a Hall of Fame or a Heisman induction, but I also place zero stock in preseason polls. However, the first preseason poll of the college football season is out. So breaking news. Ohio State and Oregon start 1-2. How about that? Buckeyes and Ducks, baby. Start 1-2 in the preseason AP college football poll. I'm not going to go and read the whole thing. Again, I do not place stock in preseason polls. They really they're based on such ethereal concepts. But Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas round out the top 5. Defending champion Indiana sitting at number 6 right now without Fernando Mendoza. So a lot of the college football buzz and run up to the start of the season to come in the next couple of weeks. But those are some college football headlines. Von Miller has signed with the Dallas Cowboys. So that's yet another storyline on this Monday. However, before we welcome our guest, really excited about her joining us for the back half of this hour. There was the Basketball Hall of Fame induction. Springfield, Massachusetts. I've actually been to that Hall of Fame. It's really sweet. A lot of celebrities and a who's who in the basketball industry for some of the icons who were inducted over the weekend. And there's a couple that I loved and highlighted. One with Mike D'Antoni. Now, remember, he coached the Knicks for a while. He's got a particular offensive system. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Wasn't the right fit there in New York long term. But he did congratulate his former team in his Hall of Fame speech.
Talking about special moments, first, let me congratulate the New York Knicks for winning the championship. Now, New York's a special place. One of the most unforgettable moments of my career, and that of many New Yorkers, was Lynn's sanity. Thank you, Jim Dolan and the Knicks for this amazing experience. Jeremy, he was on a 10-day contract and close to being released. But my assistants, Kenny Atkinson, Dan D'Antoni, and Phil Weber, kept telling me, just give him a chance. Boy, were they right. Jeremy gave New York and all of us the ride of our lives. Thank you, Jeremy, Jared Jeffries, Steve Novak, for being here tonight.
I love that because Linsanity captivated my family, my sister-in-law, my nieces, my brother. They were the ones that were sending me all kinds of clips and, clips. I mean, it goes back a few years now, but actually I wrote a blog about Linsanity in my family. And so when Mike D'Antoni talked about Linsanity and Jeremy Lin was there, I had to make sure to not only have producer Zach cut it, but also to share it with my sister-in-law. She was over the moon every single game. And this is not a sister-in-law who's big into sports. So it transcended sports, especially in the Asian community. Such a great time for Jeremy Lin and for the Knicks and their fan base. And so Mike D'Antoni inducted, also Doc Rivers. And one of the reasons that I love Doc is because I cut my teeth on late 80s, early 90s Celtics. Now, he was playing, obviously, for a different team. He was a point guard in the NBA before he became a coach, when he was a professional athlete. But he was part of that brain trust and certainly the head coach of the team that won the NBA championship. Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pearce, they were all there at the Hall of Fame induction, as well as other high-profile Hall of Fame Celtics. But since then, of course, his career has taken a lot of twists and turns. He's coached in a lot of different places, including, Milwaukee and Philadelphia and the Clippers. And because I love the family moments, we talked about these with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I asked producer Zach to cut the one where he's speaking to his son, Austin.
Other gift is that I was the first to coach my son, Austin. We did that, Austin, and no one can ever take that away from us, man. I am positive that you thought I was harder on you than everybody else. I do understand that. But what I loved about it, and it taught me a lesson, that we were talking one time, you said it was okay because you knew it was coming from a loving place. And I thought about it, damn, that's the trick. If you can be a coach and coach your players hard, and they know that it comes from a loving place, you can be really successful in this business. So thank you for teaching me that. I really appreciate it.
I love that. So much is made of LeBron and his son being able to play together. But can you imagine as a coach, and there are a lot of dads out there, even grandparents, moms, who coach their kids at the lower levels, right? So little league or maybe even high school, and have an opportunity to share that with their kiddos. But can you imagine being a dad and having the privilege of coaching your son, who you're so proud of because he made it into the NBA or whatever pro sports league? We see it in college sometimes, but this is pretty sweet that they were the first and still the only. So that's neat. And I love Doc Rivers, everything he represents. I've defended him for years because I think he is phenomenal. He's been in some tough situations that maybe he shouldn't have been in, but forever a part of Celtics lore, to be sure. And now a Hall of Famer. And one more, but I'll wait, even as we welcome in today's guest, Jessica Kleinschmidt. She's in the Bay Area and is one of those people that is a jack of all trades, has a ton of great skills. I'm constantly asking her questions about social media and now being on camera because she's a longtime reporter, both in sports and entertainment. And it's awesome to see you. Why are you so cute? Stop it. It's
I have to step up my game when I'm on with you, Amy. I can't. I'm not going to half-ass it. I got to do it. I got it. Yeah.
Good for you. Well, thank you. So I waited. There's one more clip from the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame induction that I wanted to share. And I thought you would appreciate this too, because it's Candace Parker and she's addressing her ball, right? So she's got this love affair with her ball that she brings up to the podium with her.
It felt weird to walk onto the stage without the very reason why I'm here today. My muse. We did a lot together. We dunked on UConn at UConn. Oh yeah, we gonna talk our stuff. We shimmied over our right shoulder and hit that sick fadeaway off the glass so many times. We had our own signature shoe. We were the first woman to grace the cover of NBA 2K. We traveled from Milan to Tokyo. We assisted, we were positionless. We won at every level for every team we played for. And now we stand on the podium as first ballot Hall of Famers. There will be others that follow, but my wish is may you grow it, may you love it, may you enjoy it, and may you leave it better. Whether the beginning at 13 or now at 40, it was never about anything else. We were meant to be a love story that began 27 years ago. Okay.
Much to love about that. Not only is she a badass and she really raised the level of play at her time in the WNBA, but now she's in our space, right? So she's a broadcaster, and not only for WNBA and a talking head about women's hoops, but she's now doing major NBA broadcasts. And so I love that anything Candace Parker puts her mind to, she crushes it, but also just so neat because you and I both fell in love with sports. I mean, you just love baseball. It's your passion and your soul, and it's now become our careers. And so I just thought that moment spoke to me about just falling in love when you're a certain age, and it's carried you through decades.
Yeah, and I mean, she's talking about her basketball. Mine was my glove, right? I would sleep with it. Probably awkward to sleep with a basketball, but I can appreciate it. And that's what you do when you get a new glove, you have to break it in. You're running it over with your parents' car. You're putting it underneath your mattress. You're breaking it. You're putting it in the oven. There's all these weird things that you can do. But in a weird way, you're beating it up because you love it so much. And I was an infielder, so that was my baby, and it was a smaller glove, but that's what it is. And it becomes a part of you. And I really appreciate that because it goes to show it's a basketball, sure, but that's her livelihood. You mentioned she's in the media now, and that competitive nature doesn't stop when they get over there as well. I've talked to a lot of people who transitioned, and part of the reason why they said yes, obviously their background, their resume helps, but knowing that they can keep the competitive factor going and learn from us, that's always great.
I always tell them, welcome to the dark side, because
Yes.
for so many years, they've kept us at a maybe respectful or professional arm's length. And now, hey, come over here and try to do this. It's not just about talking, but it is fun too, because as we see more of them come into the space, it's neat to be able to get the stories. So the stuff behind the scenes that while we might see in clubhouses or locker rooms, it's not the same when you're part of that family, the closed door meetings. And so I always tell athletes when they ask me, how do I set myself apart? Well, you give us the perspective of someone who's in a very slim minority. And it seems like there's a ton of professional athletes, but very few Americans, very few humans in this world have done what you've done, Candace Parker, at the highest level. So share what you know, because that's all new to us. And so, yeah, she's been great at it. She doesn't need our advice, but I'm so happy for her because I enjoyed watching her entire career. So that's super cool.
Yeah, and I think that's what's kind of interesting too. I don't know how many times you've dealt with it, but the moment the record button comes on, whether you have a rapport with the guy or the girl at all, they just get a little bit nervous because how many times has the media thrown them underneath the bus? We've all been there. We've all seen it. Luckily, I haven't done it too much, but how many times have you gone on live television and said the wrong thing or worded it wrong? That happens. But there's been a couple, like Ramon Laureano, the chattiest Kathy. The moment the record button's on, I start my iPhone. It goes very, very quiet, but he's smart. He's very, but it goes to show. So the moment they're out of that and they're part of the media, that's when it starts flowing, and people love the behind the scenes stuff. I think we talk about social media all the time. I think that's a big reason why social media in sports has gotten so big is people want to see the minutia that goes behind the scenes. And you hear these stories because storytelling is a big proponent of our livelihood and why we get paid and why we do what we do. And I love telling stories because a lot of people may not like the sport. They don't understand it. Maybe they think baseball is boring. I've come across those, but that's why you tell them a story and they start following a random baseball player because you tell them a story, because that part will never die. And I think that that's what's really cool about it.
And you have such a way of getting baseball players, even media people sometimes, that you've talked to different public figures to open up. So when you have to talk to an athlete who doesn't seem quite so chatty and is more reticent about opening up, what are some tricks that you have or some methods that you might use to get them to talk to you and forget that there's a camera there?
Yeah, it's a great question. After a while, you figure out who the personalities are, and it's, I covered the 112 loss season team for the A's, and you have to still get a quote from somebody after every single one of those games. And you just know you have to go to Shea Langoliers, you go to Tony Kemp. But there were times where there was a younger player who maybe wasn't 100% comfortable, but also wasn't chatty Cathy, and that's okay. You have to have 75 questions prepared for them. And that's just one of those things you have to do.
What?
And over time, you develop a rapport with them and they just get used to it. But I'd rather have I'd rather have 75 questions ready, because sometimes they want to give you a short answer. And sometimes it's nothing personal. They just they want to get back to their stuff. They want to get back to their warm-ups and everything. And it's not a starting pitcher, so you're not required necessarily to talk to them after the game. But if they go 4 for 4 and they get a home run, you have to talk to them and those things. So overly preparing has never messed me up. Sometimes I would go over when I'm talking too much, if it's in between a game or anything, but it's just over preparing. And a lot of times I'm just a person I can kind of get your personality in the first couple of interactions. Most of the time, don't just come up them to the first thing, unless it's an away team. There's different strategies. But if it's somebody I'm going to cover throughout the entirety of the season, I just try reaching out at the beginning, just developing a rapport, because that way, the next time I talk to them and they see a camera in their face and they know I have to get a couple of quotes, they know. And it's really about saying hey, I have to do my job. They understand it and they're doing their job as well. So it's nothing that you can really teach. It's just really something you have to present, and just being a cool person and understanding that they're people too. And I have a background in baseball playing, so that certainly helps, but it's just one of those things. I try to just talk to them like it's a conversation, and that's when the good conversations and the good interviews actually take place.
Well, it's about investing in the relationship, right? And whatever the relationship is, whether it's professional, whether it's you do your job, I do mine, the quicker we get this out of the way, the quicker you can go back to the clubhouse.
Right.
But if they know that they can count on you and they can trust you to do the job the way that you've told them that you will, well, then that relationship builds there. And no doubt, I think a lot of professional athletes would rather talk to the face they know or the person they know than a bunch of strangers. And so you actually become in essence kind of that safe place, that safe space where they can fit into their comfort zone.
That's why beat reporters have it made, and the guys really trust them, the girls really trust them, because it's one of those things too. I'm a follow-up girl. If I didn't 100% understand what you said before I tweeted out, I ran after guys so many times being like, do you mind if I tweet this?
Wait a minute, come back.
Can I do this? Because there was one guy who was kind of on the radar for a home run derby, but he wasn't invited yet. And I said, if they asked you, would you want to do it? And he said, yeah. And I was getting ready to tweet it. And I was like, I don't know if I should do that yet. So I ran after him. And he's like, thank you for asking, but no, please don't tweet that. So you have to and I could have been the person to ignore it and just go do it. And this was when I was with NBC. So I wasn't with the A's quite yet. I could do kind of, report what was there. So that's kind of stuff is one of those things. Unfortunately, having a conscience really kind of screwed my career in certain ways. What is wrong with me? Oh, so rude. But it's just one of those things.
Yeah,
I know. Breaking news was never really my thing. So luckily that happened. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things in the back of my head, if I'm like, you should probably not do this. I mean, there's a lot of times I ignore that little voice, but it's also one of those things nowadays, I'd rather just be, okay, because I can tell you one thing, one piece of information could solidify a relationship, but it could also really ruin a relationship.
Yes.
And I'd rather take my time and all of that. Because there's been a couple of times there was an injury involved, and I'd be like, hey, I don't know if my host is going to ask, but if they do bring up this injury of yours, how would you like me to approach it? And those types of things are important, because injuries isn't just news, it's fantasy sports, and people get mad about their money. I don't think fantasy sports is important, but people do get really, invested in all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely,
you're on the other end of it and all of that. So it's just one of those things that you just kind of trial and error.
Yeah. One of the things I've learned from you, and you're so good at this, I hope at some point I'm as comfortable, you do not care about, and I'm using my air quotations because I don't think you're foolish, but making a fool of yourself, whether it comes to trying new mustard or a new, vendor at the park, or trying on a costume, you will do whatever that you feel like fans can engage with and that will appeal to fans. And I just love the fact that you don't take yourself too seriously. I think that's a valuable asset in our business
Yes.
because what we do is not important. Is it entertainment? Yes. Can it reach a lot of people? But it's not life or death for the most part. It's not the cure for cancer. It's entertainment. And you have had some of the most memorable moments. So what's a story, I don't know, like something that went horribly wrong or didn't go the way that you expected when you were kind of outside the baseball talk and analysis, but more about the fan experience?
Well, recently, the last year, because we were obviously in a new stadium in Sacramento, not new for me because I got my start in the PCL, but they wanted me to go and eat all the food for the vendors, which was fine. But how mortifying is it when you're stuffing French fries covered in gosh knows what on the big screen? You see your starting pitcher warming up. He's not noticing, but you're just mortified. And not only, Amy, they put it in slow motion, which was fine.
Oh, no.
Which was fine. I'm okay with it, but it's more or less you hear everybody else reacting. You're like, oh my gosh. So like all the interns felt horrible because they thought they did something wrong. But I'm like, no, it's totally fine. But when you see it for the first time, it is a little jarring. But it's one of those things too. You want to bring in more money, all of that. I would do that. I would try on some clothes, of course, at the team shop and a lot of things. I wear like a dress. I'm this big. It's just gonna work. I'm like, I swear it's gonna look better on you. But you're right. I think it's one of those things. I also work with people who you can't force anything. Like I work with Dontrell Willis. You cannot just sit there and be cold, cool, calm, and collected. You have to have fun with it. And it's just one of those things too. I think the reason why is I'm just not the type of person to fake it. It's really hard for me. I think that can kind of be some of my demise. That is what it is.
Nah.
But you're right. I think I will never, if I did something to embarrass myself, I'm usually going to go to bed and sleep well because I don't feel like I was lying. I wasn't lying. I wasn't being any sort of way. It's one of those things too. And plus it's the fact that like, I think it's so much fun to be authentically yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's people don't know how to do that these days, which is crazy to me. Because we live in a world where, social media is, and, I live and die by social media and I post a lot. I'm covering up my pimples. I'm not showing that stuff, but I'm really trying. I adopted a squirrel the other day. I have a squirrel in my backyard that I've been feeding. I'm posting it. I want people to know.
You adopted a squirrel. How do you know it's the same squirrel who's coming back?
It is the same squirrel. I thought it was Norman. It's actually Norma. She is female and she loves watermelon.
How do you know that? Hold on.
She loves watermelon, but this girl knows now. She knows. I like look up and she's like on my little screen waiting for me to come feed her. And yeah, it's a thing.
No, seriously. How do you know it's Norma? I have no idea how you
her belly gets bigger each time she visits me. So either she's expecting or I'm feeding her very, very well. And I want a Cinderella moment. I've always believed that if I meet a wild animal, whether it's a shark or a bear, they're just going to look at me and be like, let's cuddle. I'm that delusional person. I just am. Yeah, they're just going to love me. I don't care if it's a wild animal. It's going to love me.
I missed that. Yeah. I feel like I see you on social media a lot, but somehow
I dedicated a whole album to it on my Instagram. I'm going for it.
It takes way too much time and energy to be something you're not or to fake it, to pretend. So I love your approach. You just are who you are and there's only one you.
Yes.
And you happen to love squirrels. Okay, well, that's something new that I didn't know about you. So let's hope that squirrel doesn't. Wait, you're not letting Norma in the house, are you?
Not yet, but I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed.
Oh, dear Lord, please film that because I will not say I told you so, but
no, for sure. You're right. I think I'm one of those people and it's very maternal for me. I feel good about it. So.
I feel the same way about pets. I agree with that.
You understand.
Yes, I do. Yeah. So baseball in the Bay Area looks different right now. You've covered the A's for years and now they're no longer in Oakland. What's that like for you as someone who's just was so used to that and it's been years invested in that team?
It's such a weird dynamic now, Amy, because I was there for the finale at the Coliseum. Honestly, one of the top 3 and career and best days of my life. It was so cool. And, growing up an A's fan, I'm from Reno. So I would travel the 3.5-hour drive every single time, sometimes for the day to go watch a game. There's nothing like the Coliseum. You talk about authenticity. It reminds me of Reno. It's like a dive bar. And I love that about it because when I was 11, when I went to the game, it was a certain way. Now that I was in my 30s and covering the game, it was the same. And I think that was so beautiful. And, people love Fenway because of that. People love Wrigley because it's older. And I think that that's what's beautiful about it.
But character. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's one of those things, though, like the in-between was really weird. I mean, I got my start covering the Reno Aces. So I'm familiar with the PCL, which is where the Sacramento River Cats play, the AAA team for the Giants. So that's where the A's were playing last season and this season. So that it was weird. I got to be honest. Like I felt like I was covering a lot of minor league games. I knew the guys for years, don't get me wrong, but it was just weird. And I didn't travel with the team. So unless the team was playing in San Francisco, I didn't go to any major league ballparks last year, except for those 3 games in San Francisco. So it was weird. It was awkward. But the cool part about it was we actually had to talk about baseball last season because the team was playing pretty well in the second half. And that was really great because, you see what the front office does. You're kind of like, I don't know. And then as time goes on, you're like, oh, that's why they drafted him. That's why they flipped him for that. And so that was kind of interesting. And it was a really talented group. A lot of younger guys who people haven't heard of, but you understand why they got them in the draft and you understand what the A's were trying to do. And as time goes on, but the second half of last season was really fun because we got to talk about anything but the move. And ultimately, gosh, and I know we want to talk about David Force later, but he was talking about the fact that for the last 10 years, all he's done is talk about when they put a shovel in the ground in Vegas, when they move. We don't know, so one of those things. So it's great to talk about baseball for the first time. It's a lot of talent. I mentioned those younger guys. There's so much power and they hit the ball really, really well. Nick Kurtz is one of the best players, if not the best hitter in the game right now. He's injured, but that goes without to be said. And a couple of veteran guys that are great. They make commitments to these guys, which is something the A's never do, long commitments too. So it's just one of those things where you see the foundation moving, you see it. But this season, they did not turn out to be what they ultimately should have been. And that's why there was a lot of front office and managerial or coaching moves. So we'll see what happens. But it was definitely not the season they were expecting.
I often think of you when I am talking to Browns reporters or thinking about the Browns or even the Jets, franchises that perpetually are losing. And if they're not losing, somehow they're shooting themselves in their foot. They're making changes. The constant change just keeps them in flux and in turmoil all the time, where the fans have come to expect that. But I think there's hope, right? Because the Knicks just won a championship. And every now and then you'll see a team that's won a championship for the first time.
Right.
Even the Lions getting to the NFC Championship a couple years ago was such a big story. If the Bills could ever get back to the Super Bowl and win it, certainly the New York Mets winning or getting back to the NL Championship, the Chicago Cubs finally, being able to win a World Series. We've got some of these great stories. The A's are one of those where it seems like forever since they've had that kind of success. And so I always think of you because you have to be creative. You have to be somewhat optimistic, but you also have to be realistic. And now here they are. They picked up. They are getting ready to move into the Vegas stadium whenever it's built. I'm sure it will have all the bells and whistles. But in terms of where that franchise is, how much do you think the move to Vegas will be the cure for what ails them?
I don't know. I really don't. I think it was one of those things where now that it's finally happening, we can kind of concentrate on the thing. And like I said, they're investing money into these guys like Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, Jacob Wilson, Tyler Soderstrom. Soderstrom is probably going to be one of the best players, if not like the top 5 guy in the next couple of years. He's an all-star. He's a superstar. Definitely one of the guys that I had to have a lot of questions prepared for, but he's getting better. I'm just really proud of him. And just doing so well. So it's one of those things. I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see the Vegas thing. The thing about Oakland was, before all of the money during the Moneyball era, it was really about drawing fans to the game. And I think that's what the minor leagues are doing right now. Baseball, sometimes secondary or third. They just want people to get out there. I think you can really execute that in Vegas. I think that's what's interesting. I have no idea what you're going to do as far as if there's going to be any sort of, if they're leaning on the tourists a little bit too much. I'm from Reno, and Vegas is not a local city by any means. It's a lot of tourists. It's a lot of, transient people. So I don't know how it's going to open up to 162 because people are saying, oh, the Raiders and hockey, those are totally different schedules compared to what the A's are doing. But the few people I have talked to in Vegas are very excited. But if you look and you take a step back and you look what the A's have done historically, I can see it. And like in my mind, I see the circus. I see like the lights and all of that. And like the gosh, bottle service, maybe. I don't know. I know they do that with the Raiders. So I could see that actually happening. I just hope that that's not, once again, is what is being concentrated on, because baseball, sometimes the game of baseball gets third, fourth in line about everything. So I think after the first couple of seasons, you mentioned the bells and whistles, that's going to be great. I don't know. I got to be honest, I'm not 100% confident in it. I think it's going to be great for the first couple of weeks. Honestly, it's going to be cool. And then after that, I think people are kind of going to do what they used to do. But think about A's fans, and you mentioned them, they're extremely passionate. They know the game so well.
Yes.
You have to, because you have to look for things like the small things and
be happy about
100%. And even that, like, that was what was cool about the down years. I got to really go in depth about the prospects and watching the scouts and talking to them, because there was the bigger things you couldn't concentrate on. And, the turnover was really cool. Seeing like these names I never thought would be there out there. So it's just one of those things that over time you take what you can get. But I think now more than ever, I have no idea what it's going to look like in Vegas.
I think the Raiders are still dealing with that. And the Golden Knights are different because they didn't come from anywhere else, and because they won right away.
You didn't abandon somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And with the Raiders, I think we're seeing it. That Allegiant Stadium is beautiful. People go to follow their team that's playing against the Raiders, visit Vegas, take in the new stadium. And it's the same thing I worry about that might happen with the A's, where they don't have their own fans. It's a little bit too far for people to be going, season ticket holders from the Bay Area every time. So they don't have their own fans, but maybe people use it to go watch their favorite team who are playing the A's and also take a trip to Vegas. But here's the other thing, Jess. I know that you know the area. That south end of the Strip is so crowded with stadiums now. You've got the Golden Knights, Allegiant Stadium. I'm not sure what the new baseball stadium will be named. Not to mention the arena where the Aces play. And I'm pretty sure UNLV is down there too, right?
Yeah.
So you've got these 5 stadiums that all clog traffic, but also require money to get into and resources. And I wonder if it's a bit of an oversaturation where maybe the A's end up getting the shaft, at least initially, until they're a winner.
That's an interesting thought too. And the thing about Vegas is funny. You look at like all these casinos on the Strip kind of back to back, and you think, oh, I can get there in 10 minutes. It's a 2-hour walk to the next spot. People don't understand that. And you're also in the Vegas heat, which is very unforgiving. But you're right. I don't know if it's going to be one of those things where it's going to seem almost kind of like it's a fad. Like everybody's moving to Vegas. Everybody's doing this. So, I mean, I don't know, but I do know that there are some really cool marketing ploys that the A's have done over the years. So that part I'm really looking forward to. They're embracing the local area. They already have, the right reporters that they're trusting at the moment. They know the area as far as donating to spots. They even donated up in Northern Nevada, which I really, really appreciated because I'm from there. And I can see that. So they're doing the right things, like to kind of become a part of the community while still trying to do that with Sacramento too. So I was very impressed with what they were doing, despite only kind of renting it for a couple of seasons. But I think that's kind of the start. They want to have that. There's, Vegas coming, or A's coming to Vegas, stuff everywhere. But it'll be interesting because, like you said, at least when the Knights were there, it was kind of all about them. And then the Raiders come and it's like, okay, well, there you go. And then finally WNBA is becoming a thing. And now the Aces are there, and they still have the AAA ballpark that the A's AAA team plays down there. So there's a lot. And I didn't even realize that until you kind of lay everything out. And of course it's, there's a lot of concerts that go there. So the Sphere is there, and you're right. Like the one thing about it is I don't have to worry about that traffic anymore since I'm not working for the A's, but at the same time that I have no idea what that's going to look like. And,
crazy.
There could be one day where everybody's there, but then lately the Strip seems a little bare. So I don't know how that's going to look. So, I mean, it's one of those wait and see type of things.
I am far from a Vegas expert. I've only been there one time. It's not really my kind of place.
Me neither. It's definitely not.
I was there for Super Bowl week, and I do remember what you're talking about. You could maybe only be a quarter mile away from something, or like you're walking from one hotel to the next one. Even going through the casinos takes forever because they try to direct all the traffic through the casinos. So
and no clocks in the casino. They want no clock. They want you to stay there forever.
Early.
Yeah.
But you definitely do walk forever. So I guess that's one thing. One of the things that you do so well, and I'm so impressed, there's a lot of people in our business that try to cross over and make the ties between the sports and the pop culture or the entertainment. I mean, you think about it, they're always crossed because a lot of these athletes will run in the same circles as public figures, celebrities who follow their games, their teams, blah, blah. The Knicks are a great example. Hall of Fame inductions are a good example because you end up having a lot of public figures. Or even what we've seen this summer. Is it me? Or have there been a whole lot of athletes getting married this summer? Like high profile athletes, a lot of quarterbacks, it feels like. But Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, the ultimate crossover. But it's not just that one. Josh Allen ends up marrying an actress.
Yes.
You have a baseball player who is married a singer. I mean, there's a lot of crossover too. And one of those popped into my mind this morning. And also I'm just so stunned about the death of Hayden Panettiere, but she was with a boxer, right? Like a boxer who was so successful and accomplished. And I'm old. Certainly older than Hayden was, but part of life when you get to be older is that you are cognizant of loss. And I think really going back, even I was on the air the night that Whitney Houston died, and I'll still never forget because she was one of my all-time favorite singers, entertainers, the impact that she had on my life when I was a kid, just listening to her. Used to sneak her music when mom wouldn't let me listen to pop music. And so now you get to be a little older, and the tragedy is it feels different. And so I don't know what happened. They have not released cause of death. I know she struggled with addiction for years, but gosh, I used to watch her every single week on Nashville. That was one of my like obsessions when she was there with Connie Britton. And it's just so sad to think about. And the worlds do cross over. So there's a lot of also covering pop culture too.
Yeah, you know what? And the thing about her is, and I don't know if that's like a reach necessarily. I don't think so. Obviously, her role in Remember the Titans was it was like, as a young girl who talks about sports, there's so many times where people will look right through me when I'm trying to make a point or doing analysis. And it was nice to see a young female character talking about sports, and her father, the football coach, listens to her. Denzel Washington, his character, listens to her. And that's just something that didn't happen, especially back then. They were talking about, racial profiling and violence. And they're actually listening to a young white girl talk about sports and actually taking her word for it. And I think that that's what was really cool is, growing up, as like there's times where I didn't want to say anything about sports because I knew people wouldn't take me seriously. And I wanted to water myself down and dumb it down a little bit.
Be more like the guys.
100%. I felt like I was trying too much to get attention, which I like attention, but there's a time and place for it. And I think with that, it was nice to know that they heard her, they saw her, and that was so rare. And I think a lot of girls related to her. And 3 years ago she lost her brother, and she said that that's her other half, and she didn't know how she was going to go on without it. And you mentioned the addictions and stuff, and not that long ago she talked about how much she had so much life to live, and we don't know what happened, but 36 years old, I outlived her, and that's crazy. So it's just one of those things that you think about where the beautiful thing about being around athletes and celebrities is you do see that they're real people. And when Jose Fernandez died, for me, that was the first time when I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So they're young and they're still people. I think there is a beauty to that. Obviously, recently, one of my good friends down here, Michael Wagaman, passed away, and he was like a dad to me, and he was a part of the press box and our beat. And I think that alone just goes to show that when you're in this industry, you're surrounded by people 24/7, and there are people that are close to them because you have people that are close to you. So it's just very, very sad. And we don't know what happened yet, but I know she had a really tough life, and I just hope that there was some sort of peace in her before all of this happened, because you could just see she was not happy in some of these interviews. But obviously hindsight's 2020. We don't know. I'm not there listening to her, and I don't want to be that person, but either way, I know there's people that loved her, and I'm sure that they're very sad today.
It underscores this fact that these are people, they're humans, and just because they're famous and they have more money, in fact, more problems come with being famous and being in the spotlight all the time. And she's been really open about how early her problems with addiction started, and that actually some of the drugs that she was using were given to her when she was a child by industry leaders. And so I'm really glad. I know there's still a lot more of traffic and a lot more of real estate to cover, but that there's a light being shined on some of the practices and industries when it comes to children, when it comes to women, that type of thing. But yeah, really sad. And when you get older, again, life becomes more precious, and you understand that it's not guaranteed. I know you understand that too, in our families. So I just was thinking about talking to you today and thinking, no doubt she will have a perspective on that. But Yeah, 36 years old. That's
I
a
know.
baby.
That is a
But
baby.
I've got a niece that's about to be 30. So
Yeah.
that just blows my mind when you think
Right.
about it that way. Well,
Yeah.
it is awesome to see you. It makes my Monday to see your beautiful face. I love that you were going to bring it for the show this morning. Just, so much
I'm not just gonna wake up and come on your show, Amy. I cannot do that.
However, I want to be honest and tell people, just because I was asking Jess for advice about being on camera, and she said, you know what? It's okay to have a day where your hair looks like poo and where you're not wearing makeup. So
Yeah.
I haven't tried that yet. I'm not that confident, but I do appreciate that you are who you are, Jess. Amazing, talented, funny, my sister. And I just love that we get a chance to do this. So thank you.
Well, I'm just very proud of you. This is a very cool opportunity for you, and you're killing it. And the fact that you are a little bit worried about being on camera means you care. But I know you have a lot of people that are watching and following your career, and they're following you from everything else. And like I said, I went from TV to radio. You're going from radio to TV. That's a huge challenge. And you're not even talking to me. You're talking to a camera like right now, right? So it's weird. It's an inanimate object, but we talked about that. But you're doing amazing, and I'm very proud of you.
No, it's you today, Jess. It's you. So thank you. Good to see you. Love you.
Love you too.
Good stuff with Jess. And we covered a lot of territory, I know, running a little bit late, but she is worth it and so funny. The stories about eating in slow-mo on a Jumbotron or on a big screen, that is probably my worst nightmare. I do not eat gracefully. No one needs to see that. And yet she is awesome. So make sure, I know her social media was there on the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Zach. But also when I share this interview on social in clips, I'll make sure I include her. Follow her because she's funny. I had no idea about the pet squirrel. Also, I still am not exactly sure I know how she has determined it's a female Norma and not Norman, but that's Jess. There's no one quite like her in the space. Good to hear from so many of you today. I know we had a bunch of comments through the last hour of the show and early in the first hour. One that I wanted to just quick read because I think it's amazing. I did spend a couple of years in my career in Oklahoma back when I was in my 20s. So that was really my first taste of big time college football. And now I'm back in Texas. But there was a host there. His name was Al Eschbach. And he's from the Sports Animal, which is the big time radio station in Oklahoma. They actually carried my show for years, going back to when I was doing after hours. Anyway, Eileen is telling me that he's celebrating 50 years in radio. So I do have a ways to go. Yes. And now it's not just radio, it's video as well. So hopefully this Monday gave you a jolt of joy and you love hanging out with us wherever it is that you're watching, listening, whatever platform it is. We're just glad to have you along for the ride. Week 3, Pete. Let's go. Have a great Monday. Crush it. We'll be back on Tuesday here on All In with Amy Lawrence.